Hi guys, this is Ernie from Borrowed Land Farm, and today I'm going to go over with you how you can easily grow mushrooms at home on straw. And if you've seen the video on how to create a fruiting chamber, this is a perfect thing to put into your fruiting chamber. If you don't have a fruiting chamber, that's okay. You can grow them without it. But we're going to go through a quick slideshow of it, and then I'm going to show you in video form how to do the different steps. But I want the slideshow on here first so that you can refer to that as you go to do this yourself. And a downloadable PDF of that slideshow will be on our website on the education page so that you can print that out and refer back to it. That's at borrowedlandfarm.com. So straw is an ideal substrate to grow on. It's cheap, it's easy to find, it has a low nutritive value, so you're less likely to get things like mold contamination. Mushrooms grow really fast in straw. It's a very good substrate to use. So here is a list of the things you're going to need. I set a 2-gallon bucket and lid, but really it doesn't matter. You could use a 1-gallon, you could use a 5-gallon. And just sort of a pro tip here, Walmart bakeries save their buckets and lids, and they will sell them to you for $1. Your local grocery store may very well give them to you for free if you talk to their bakery. Shredded straw, you can get this pre-shredded straw from a place like Tractor Supply. It's a lot easier than shredding a bale yourself. But if you have access to your own straw, or if you just want to get a bale, you can get a bale, 30-pound bale of straw for about $6 usually. But I think it's worth getting the pre-shredded stuff. 5-gallon paint strainer bag that you can get from Lowe's or Home Depot. Spray bottle with rubbing alcohol, micropore paper tape. This is medical tape that you would find in a pharmacy. Make sure it's the thin paper stuff. A cooler big enough to put one or more of those strainer bags full of straw in, a way to boil water, and then you're going to need whatever mushroom you want to inoculate with. You're going to need some of that spawn. We have that available on our website as well. So you're going to prepare your bucket. First of all, you're going to clean it well. You're going to drill holes that your mushrooms will be able to grow through, and they'll also, while they're colonizing, they'll be able to breathe through those holes. And we say 1 to 2 holes per gallon seems to be a pretty ideal amount. Doesn't matter at all where you put those holes. You're going to prepare your straw. If you don't have pre-shredded straw, shred it. An easy way to shred it is just to run it over with your lawnmower. You want to get it to where it's pretty beat up, short pieces that feel pretty soft. And then 1 pound of straw typically will fill about a 1-gallon bucket. So if you're using a 2-gallon bucket, get 2 pounds of straw. And you're going to place that straw in your paint strainer bag and put that in the cooler. Then you're going to boil water. After the water boils, you're going to pour water over that straw in the cooler, fill the cooler up, close it down and put a weight on the lid because that straw is going to want to float. And then you're going to wait 2 hours. That's going to let the straw hydrate, and it's going to let it pasteurize so that you're killing off any competing molds particularly. It's not going to kill all the bacteria in there. It'll kill most of them, but there'll be some that'll survive it, and that'll be okay. Big concern is mold contamination. Then you're going to drain that straw. Once the water's out of it, it'll actually cool down pretty quick. One thing you can do is you can spin it in a washing machine to spin that water out. That works fine. A lot of people don't want to do that. What we'll be doing is putting it in a 5-gallon bucket and sort of weighting it down. We'll be pressing it down with a spacer under it so that the water can drain out, and we'll just leave it in there closed up overnight for the water to drain out, and by morning it should be cool. When we are done with that and we've drained the straw and it's cooled and we're ready to inoculate, we're going to prepare by having our spawn bag ready. We're going to have the clean bucket and lid that already have the holes in that the straw and the spawn are going to go into. We're going to have our alcohol. We're going to have our micropore tape. We're going to have basically everything that's on that list ready to inoculate. And then we're going to inoculate. If you happen to have latex gloves, it's a good idea to use them just to keep things cleaner. If you don't have them, just spray your hands and your arms up to about your elbows with alcohol. You're going to put handfuls of straw into the bucket and little bits of spawn around through that. And you're just going to basically be making a lasagna here. Straw alternating with a little bit of spawn. We like to use about between 2 and 3 ounces per pound of dry weight straw. So since we're doing 2 pounds of straw, we're going to use about 5 ounces of spawn. Our spawn usually comes in 5-pound bags, so you'll have enough to do quite a bit. You could do about 15 of those 2-pound buckets of straw with 1 bag of spawn. And when you've got what you're going to use out of that bag, seal it up, put it in the fridge, and let it sit in the fridge, and it'll keep. So once we get our bucket completely filled and tight, we'll snap the lid in place. We'll cover the holes with micropore tape so that the bucket is basically all sealed up. Any flies that happen to be hanging around aren't going to be able to land on that straw. We're just creating a sealed off space where it can colonize. And then we're going to leave it there to colonize in a warm location. By warm, I mean about room temperature, just around 70 degrees. You're not worried about humidity. There's plenty of moisture inside there. And it's got plenty of humidity inside. It's in perfect condition. And it'll colonize inside that bucket for close to 2 weeks before it's ready to fruit. After about a week, you can start checking it by just sort of lifting the lid up a little bit to see if you see mycelium growing. By about 2 weeks, it's going to be ready to fruit. It'll be pretty much filled with that white mycelium all through the straw. And when it's ready, it'll start pushing the tape right off of those holes. It'll force its way right out. When that happens, that's the time that you want to start controlling your humidity. So you'll pull all the tape off of all the holes, and then you'll start maintaining your humidity either by putting it in your grow chamber, or you'll set it up next to a humidifier maybe, or just spray it periodically and let mist settle down onto the fruiting areas. You're going to want to, based on what variety of mushrooms you're growing, you're going to want to be really familiar with what they look like when they're mature and ready to pick. You want to pick them a little bit early so that they're not dropping spores all over the place. After you get done picking your mushrooms, it's going to fruit again. It'll probably fruit, I'd say 3 times or more if it's oyster mushrooms. We've had people that have fruited them 7 times. What's important is after every time, as soon as you pick the mushrooms, get it covered back up with micropore tape so it's sealed, give it some time to rest, and it'll let you know when it wants to fruit again by pushing that micropore tape off. When you're all done, you think you're done growing whatever's going to grow out of it, then you can just compost what's in there or use it for mulch. Clean out that bucket and you're ready to start all over again. Okay, let's get to the videos. I've got my 2-gallon bucket with the lid here. It'll hold about 2 pounds of straw. I want about 1 or 2 holes per dry weight pound of the substrate you're using. So I'm going to do 3 holes in this. Because it's got this label, I don't really want them fruiting through this label. My choice really is to put 3 holes away from the label or put it in the top and let it fruit out of the top. That would be fine, but I'm going to do it on the side. So I'm just going to do 3 holes. And I'm going to clean them up a little bit with a utility knife just so I don't have stuff hanging off of there. I'm using a 3/8 inch diameter drill bit. Anywhere 3/8 inch to a 1/2 inch is fine. This 3/8 that I used, I mainly chose it over the 1/2 inch just because it's a little sharper. You want to be careful not to press too hard when you're drilling through the bucket so that you don't end up breaking the bucket instead of drilling through it. So let the drill do the work, not your force. And now that is ready to use. Okay, here's what 2 pounds of shredded straw, finely shredded straw, looks like in one of these 5-gallon paint strainer bags. It looks like a lot. It may be a little more that'll fit in this bucket. This bucket, I'm guessing it's about 2 gallons, but I think we can actually probably make this fit. You'll see, it seems like it's going to be tight, but if we really stuff it, it'll go in there. So I think we've got a good amount there. That's 2 pounds. So basically whatever you can stuff into that bucket is close enough. You don't have to weigh it, but you want the bucket nice and full. So I've got 2 bags of straw in the cooler right now. I heated water in this turkey fryer till it was just boiling, and then I dumped it in to the cooler and put spacers on top to hold it down, and when I push it down, it just pushed a little bit of water out. So you can see down there, pushed a little bit of water out, so it's just totally full when it's closed. Put a weight on top to hold it down, and I'm going to leave it sit there for 2 hours. I've got my timer set for 2 hours, and by the end of 2 hours, it'll be pasteurized and it'll be hydrated. Okay, this straw has been soaking for 2 hours. It's ready to drain now. So what I'm going to do, I've got some alcohol here in the spray bottle. I'm going to spray around the inside of my bucket. And then I'm going to get in here, open this up. I'm going to take one of these spacers that I've got. It's kind of hot, and it has soaked up a lot of that water. I'm going to take both of these straw bags, put both of them in here and let them drain. I'm going to put a lid on this to kind of force that down. I'm going to leave it to sit overnight and drain and cool. Okay, we're ready to inoculate our bucket. I've got my supplies together. I've got a spray bottle with alcohol in it. I've got the spawn I'm going to use. This is a gray oyster spawn. I've got my bucket with a lid. I've got some wipes that are just regular dry wipes to use to wipe things after I spray them with alcohol. I've got some surgical gloves. If you don't have these, that's okay. You can just spray your hands good. I've got some micropore tape to cover my holes after I inoculate the bucket. Got a knife, got a scale, and a container. That's not really necessary. It's okay to estimate this. I've got my packing tape, and I've got my straw here that has been hydrated and pasteurized, and I am ready to get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my gloves on so I can keep things clean. I'm going to weigh out the spawn that I'm going to use. We've got 2 pounds of straw that we're going to be inoculating, and we say that you can do about 6 pounds of straw with say 1.25 pounds of spawn. So 1/3 of 1.25 pounds would be 5/4. Let's do 0.3. We're going to do 0.3 pounds, which will say around 5 ounces. So we'll get 5 ounces in this container. So I'm going to my hands clean here. I'm going to spray the inside of this container to make sure that it's clean. And the wipe is coming away a little bit dirty, so it's good that I sprayed it. Okay, and I'm going to spray the outside of my spawn bag where I'm going to make my cut. All I'm going to do is cut it enough that I can get spawn out. I'm not going to cut the whole top off of it. I'm going to carefully wipe down my knife and make a cut in my bag, and I'm going to pour 5 ounces out. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. But I like to be exact. Alright, and then I'm going to use my packing tape to tape this back shut. And once I've done that, I'm done with my packing tape, I'm done with my spawn, and I'm done with my scale. So now I've got my spawn here. We're ready to go. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the straw that we've been draining overnight, again, give my hands a quick spray to make sure things are clean. I'm going to give the inside of my bucket a quick spray to make sure it's clean. Another thing you could do here is just line your bucket with a trash can liner. But now I'm ready to start packing my straw in here. So all I'm going to do is start out by checking, make sure that if I take some of my straw and squeeze it, I'm really not getting anything out. So it's definitely dry enough and it feels cool to the touch. So I'm going to start packing this in. I'm going to get a pretty good layer into there, and then I'm going to sprinkle some straw on top. And then I'm going to get a pretty good layer in there. I'm breaking it up as I'm dropping it in. And I'm going to sprinkle some more straw in. And I'll kind of mix it around as I go. Some more straw in. Some more spawn. This is going to fit in there really tightly. So pretty soon I'm going to have to start really shoving it in to get it to fit. I think that's all I'm going to get in there. That's going to be a tight fit, so I'm just going to sprinkle the rest of this on top. Kind of work it around a little bit, try to keep as much as I can in there. And then I'm going to fit this lid on the best I can. Before I get it on, I'm going to tuck all the way around the edges of the bucket to make sure that I don't leave any bits of straw sticking out through where the lid is going. If you do that, they'll get contaminated on the outside and they'll pull those contaminants into the inside. So they are literally acting like straws in that case. Once I think I've got it as tight as it'll go, let me get this lid on nice and tight. Now, around the outside, make sure that nothing's sticking through. A couple little pieces there that I'm going to try to get out. And that's pretty good. So last thing I need to do here is I'm going to cover those holes with some micropore tape to protect them so they can still breathe right through the micropore tape, but nothing can get in there like bugs and stuff. It's a pretty good barrier against microbes, and it's a great barrier against bugs. And that's it. Now I'll mark this, the date that I inoculated, I'll mark that it's gray oyster, and then we'll start checking it. I'd wait a week before I check it, but after a week, I'm going to lift the lid off and take a look in there, and I'll be able to see that the mycelium is spreading from all those inoculation points. There'll be white fuzz growing out from them, like little cotton balls in there. And about 2 weeks from now, it's going to be fully colonized. And I expect in about 2 weeks, it'll be ready to start fruiting. So in the meantime, it doesn't have to go in a fruiting chamber. It's just going to sit somewhere quietly, and it's going to colonize this straw. And I actually have a second bag of straw in here that I'm going to inoculate in another bucket using golden oyster. And when both of these are ready to fruit, we'll get them into our fruiting chamber and see what they do.